Chapter 60. Is this the true face of King Bei? You are listening at novelfull.audio. After Lu Chen left, Mu Changtian and the others instantly breathed a sigh of relief, as if they were relieved. The three of them still felt incredible at this time. That's King Bei, the uneducated and dissolute king of the north. He is actually the mysterious prince who saved the Mu mansion. Mu Changtian laughed at himself at this time. Ha ha ha, I didn't expect that I would make mistakes sometimes. Mu Jingwu said from the side, Dad, I still don't understand why King Bei wanted to hide his clumsiness in the capital in the first place. It stands to reason that with the power he has and the support of the Chu family, the crown prince position will most likely belong to him. The northern king had just said before that if the trees are beautiful in the forest, the wind will destroy them, but this does not fully explain the reason for his hidden clumsiness. Hearing his son's question, Mu Changtian pondered for a moment, then stroked his beard and said, How can we guess what King Bei is thinking? But judging from everything Bei Wang has done, it seems that he has never planned to rely on the power of the aristocratic family. Otherwise, after arriving in Beijing, the first thing he should do is to send people to the Chu family and ask the Chu family to help govern Beijing. But as far as I know, there has been no contact between the Chu family and the North Palace for a long time. So I suspect that King Bei's attitude towards the noble family is actually the same as that of Emperor Xiao. Upon hearing this, Mu Jingwu and Mu Xingping were stunned. After Mu Xingping came to his senses, he seemed to understand something, and he immediately said, Could it be that King Bei deliberately wanted to withdraw from the capital in order to use his majesty to get rid of the aristocratic family, and then wait for all the forces in the capital to be consumed by the fight for the right to inherit the throne? After his death is almost complete, he will return to the capital to inherit the orthodoxy. Mu Changtian said, There is a high probability that this is the reason. The family has been in chaos for a long time. As a prince who can tolerate so much, King Bei must have greater ambitions in his heart. His eyes cannot only see the position of the prince. I suspect that he has set his sights further into the future, on the things he needs to deal with after he takes the throne. If Emperor Xia can solve all the aristocratic families, after King Bei ascends the throne, King Bei will have the final say in the entire Great Xia. This has another biggest benefit for him. If someone says in the future that the royal family is too aggressive, they are only talking about the current Emperor Xia and have nothing to do with King Bei. After hearing Mu Changtian's analysis, the two Mu brothers were stunned. They didn't expect that the northern king, who was once called a waste, actually had such great talent in his heart. If the northern king ascends the throne and becomes the new emperor of Daxia in the future, his ambition will probably not stop at controlling Daxia. According to King Bei's current plan, by the time he ascends the throne, most of the aristocratic families in Daxia will have been wiped out by Emperor Xiao. At that time, King Bei will have the final say in Daxia alone. King Bei, a man with great talent and great strategy, had taken control of the entire Great Xia. If he didn't do something important, he would be sorry for his long-term planning. 6. The two brothers of the Mu family no longer dare to think about the direction in which King Bei will take the ship of Daxia after he ascends the throne. They couldn't help but wonder, could it be that what the northern king really wanted to do was to destroy all dynasties and dominate the world? Is Bei Wang's current plan just the beginning? Thinking of this, the two Mu brothers couldn't help but take a breath of cold air. It turns out that this is King Bei's true thoughts. Is this the true face of King Bei? On the carriage back to the North Palace, Lu Chen sneezed constantly, and he even wondered if he had a cold. I am a 9th-grade warrior after all, so I shouldn't catch cold so easily, right? Soon, Lu Chen returned to the palace. The first time he entered the palace, Lu Chen went to find Mu Zixuan. Mu Zixuan was taking care of her children in the room. When she saw Lu Chen coming, Mu Zixuan quickly put down Lu Changfeng. I've met the prince. Lu Chen came to Mu Zixuan, put his arms around Mu Zixuan's waist, raised his hand to scratch her nose, and then said, My beloved, I have told you so many times, you are my wife, you don't have to worry about it every day. Salute me. Mu Zixuan smiled and said, The prince is the prince, and it is appropriate for me to salute you. Seeing that Mu Zixuan still said that, Lu Chen stopped continuing the topic and said directly, My dear concubine, I just prepared a surprise for you. I wonder if you are interested. Hearing this, Mu Zixuan asked in confusion, surprise? What surprise? Lu Chen said with a smile, if the surprise is revealed, it will not be considered a surprise. I will ask someone to take you to a place, and you will know later. Mu Zixuan said quickly, Your Majesty, Feng'er hasn't slept yet. Lu Chen glanced at Lu Changfeng on the bed, and then said, Let Nanny Xiao Rou watch first. You go to that place first. Hearing Lu Chen's words, Mu Zixuan became even more curious. What kind of surprise was it? In the long time since she married into the palace, King Bei had not prepared any so-called surprises for her, but having said that, King Bei was a surprise in itself for her. Originally, when she married into Prince Bei's mansion, she thought her future life would be very miserable. However, she did not expect that Prince Bei had almost no shortcomings except for his lust. Moreover, King Bei has always been very kind to her as the princess, dotes on her, and trusts her, even leaving the palace's property to her to take care of. It was not easy for a woman from a criminal family like her to marry such a good man. How could Mu Zixuan dare to expect any surprises? Mu Zixuan then said, Well, I'll go and see the surprise that the prince has prepared for me first. Seeing that Mu Zixuan agreed, Lu Chen immediately pulled Mu Zixuan out of the room. Lu Chen then arranged for Genie Wei to take Mu Zixuan to the house he prepared for the Mu mansion. On the way to Xin Mu mansion, Mu Zixuan still couldn't help but be curious. She opened the curtain and asked the guard in brocade clothes who sent him off, What surprise has the prince prepared for me? Do you know? Hearing Mu Zixuan's question, the guard in golden clothes quickly replied, Princess, the prince has told his subordinates not to tell you in advance. You will know when you get there. Hearing the answer of the genie guard, Mu Zixuan curled her lips and thought to herself, what on earth could be so mysterious about this surprise? Not long after, Mu Zixuan arrived at the door of Mu Mansion. Because of the sensitivity of the surname Mu, there is no plaque with the surname hanging on the gate of Mu's mansion, it is just a gate. At this time, a guard in brocade clothes said to Mu Zixuan in the carriage, Princess, we have arrived. Hearing this, Mu Zixuan immediately got off the car. Seeing the gate in front of her, Mu Zixuan was even more puzzled. Why did the prince ask her to come to this place? At this time, a guard in brocade came to the door and said to the servant guarding the door, Go in and inform your master that the princess is here. When the servant heard this, he quickly ran into the mansion. Mu Zixuan came to the door of Mu Mansion at this time. When the servants of Mu Mansion saw Mu Zixuan, they all immediately saluted and said, I have met the princess. Mu Zixuan said calmly, Get up. She was a little absent-minded now, she just wanted to know what surprise Lu Chen had prepared for her. At this moment, a familiar woman's voice came from not far away. Zixuan. Chapter 61 The second child is born. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After hearing the sound, Mu Zixuan immediately looked in the direction of the sound. Seeing this, Mu Zixuan froze on the spot. She never thought that she would be able to see her mother again in this life. From the day she married Lu Chen, she had been prepared to never return to the capital or see her relatives, but she didn't expect that just over a year later, she would see her mother again. Mu Zixuan was extremely moved. It turned out that this was the surprise that the prince said. This is indeed a big surprise for her. At this time, Mu Zixuan's tears couldn't help but flow down. After seeing her daughter, Mrs. Mu was also very excited, and she quickly ran to Mu Zixuan. Mother and daughter immediately hugged each other tightly. Mu Zixuan cried, and Mu Shi also cried. Mu Zixuan cried because she finally saw her relatives, and Mu Shi cried because the Mu family had experienced a life-and-death crisis. She thought she would never see her daughter again. After a while, Mu Zixuan wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes. She was about to comfort her mother, but she found Mu Changtian and the others standing not far away. Mu Zixuan realized that not only her mother had come to Beijun, but her father had also come, and her two brothers had also come. Even some of the servants of Mu Mansion are here. How is this going? No matter how stupid Mu Zixuan is, she can still realize that something might have happened in Mu Mansion when she saw this scene before her. Mu Changtian was the duke of the country, and he also held military power. Although his military power had been taken back, it was impossible for the emperor to let him leave the capital. As a result, their family ended up in Beijun. It was obvious that something had happened to the Mu family. Mu Zixuan immediately asked, "Mom, what's going on? Why did you all come to Beijing?" Mu Changtian sighed, and then said, "Zixuan, please come in first, and we will slowly tell you about the affairs of the capital." Mu Zixuan nodded and followed them to the living room of Mu Mansion. Afterwards, Mu Changtian told Mu Zixuan everything that happened in the capital and on their way to exile. Only then did Mu Zixuan know what happened in the Mu Mansion. At this time, Mu Zixuan did not blame Lu Chen for not telling her about this at all. She also understood why Lu Chen kept it from her. She had just given birth to a child when the Mu family's accident happened, and her body was relatively weak. If he had heard about Mu's house at that time, he would definitely have been hit. At this time, Mu Zixuan was even more grateful to Lu Chen. She never thought that one day it would be King Bei who saved their whole family. At the same time, Mu Zixuan also felt extremely lucky. If she had not married the Northern King, it is very likely that she and the Mu family would be gone. After staying in Mu's mansion for about 2 hours, Mu Zixuan returned to the palace. At this time, Lu Chen was in the study looking at Genie Wei's information. Dong dong dong. There was a knock on the door in the study. "Your Majesty, can I come in?" Lu Chen put down the information, then stood up and said, "Come in." As soon as Mu Zixuan opened the door, Lu Chen asked with a smile, "My dear concubine, what do you think of the surprise I prepared for you? Do you like it?" As soon as Lu Chen finished speaking, Mu Zixuan threw herself into Lu Chen's arms. Feeling the warm fragrance of nephrite in his arms, Lu Chen patted Mu Zixuan's jade back in a comforting manner. Mu Zixuan sobbed and said, "You. Your Majesty, thank you for saving our family." Lu Chen smiled slightly, "You are my beloved concubine, and I don't want to see you sad after losing your loved one. This is what I should do." Lu Chen said while continuing to pat Mu Zixuan's back, Okay, don't cry. The whole family in the Mu family is fine, and they have come to Beijing. If you want to see your relatives in the future, you can also. It's easier." Having said this, Lu Chen pushed Mu Zixuan away slightly, and then used his fingers to scrape away the tears from the corners of her eyes. At this time, Mu Zixuan's face was rosy, the beauty was in tears, and her charming appearance was even more lovable. Mu Zixuan looked at Lu Chen in front of her. She didn't know how to express her gratitude. She stared into Lu Chen's eyes with expressions on her face. Seeing Mu Zixuan's appearance, Lu Chen couldn't help it anymore, so he kissed her directly. Mu Zixuan did not resist. She had not developed a relationship with Lu Chen for a long time since she became pregnant. In addition, her gratitude to Lu Chen exploded because of the incident in Mu's house, which made her eager to get Lu Chen's deep love. Originally, Lu Chen didn't like to cultivate relationships with his wives and concubines in the study. After all, this was where he worked. He just had to catch Wang Qingxi, a slave girl, and clean her up occasionally, but the atmosphere has already been set up to this point, so there is nothing more to say. The host cultivates a relationship with Mu Zixuan once, and the experience value of the qi refining technique will be increased by 20, and the experience value of the rejuvenation hand will be increased by 20. Congratulations to the host for gaining another heir. As a reward, he will be rewarded with 200 122mm howitzers, 1,000 artillery shells, and cement manufacturing technology. The more children you have, the greater the reward will be. Please keep up your efforts and produce more heirs. Lu Chen was stunned for a moment when he heard the system prompt tone at the back. He was still having a sweet time with his beloved concubine, but he didn't expect that his concubine would give birth to a child for him at this time. Seeing that Lu Chen had stopped moving, Mu Zixuan, with a spring in her eyes, turned to look at Lu Chen and asked, "Husband, what's wrong?" It was at this time that Mu Zixuan would call Lu Chen husband, not only husband, but also good brother and good husband. Lu Chen raised his hand, gently scraped the sweat from Mu Zixuan's white forehead, and replied, "Xiao Xiao must have given birth." Hearing this, Mu Zixuan suddenly woke up and said immediately, "Your Majesty, let's go over and take a look immediately." Mu Zixuan is not the kind of person who doesn't care about the important and the important. At this time, it is obviously not the time for pleasure. Lu Chen said, "Well, let's clean up and go over." Then the two simply packed up and headed to the north courtyard where Zhou Xiaoxiao was. At this time, the north hospital was already busy. Zhou Xiaoxiao had already given birth. She was lying on the bed limply, her face was pale and her whole body was covered in sweat. Lu Chen came to Zhou Xiaoxiao's bedside and sat down, then held her hand and said, "Xiaoxiao, you gave birth to a baby, why didn't you send someone to notify me?" If it weren't for the system prompt, he wouldn't have known that Zhou Xiaoxiao had given birth. Zhou Xiaoxiao forced a smile and said, "The prince is very busy recently, and I don't want to disturb the prince." Mu Zixuan said from the side, "Sister, the prince will not mind." Lu Chen smiled and said, "Xiaoxiao, you must remember to notify me when you have children in the future, do you understand?" Hearing this, Zhou Xiaoxiao was stunned for a moment. She had just given birth, and the prince told her about giving birth to a child next time. At this time, Zhou Xiaoxiao couldn't help but have a blush on her pale face. Seeing that she was so weak, Lu Chen immediately mobilized his spiritual energy and used his rejuvenating hands to treat Zhou Xiaoxiao. The next moment, Zhou Xiaoxiao felt extremely comfortable all over his body, and the pain and fatigue on his body disappeared instantly. After seeing the faint green light emanating from Zhou Xiaoxiao's body, Mu Zixuan, Chu Yuqin and others were stunned. Chapter 62 Barbarian Movement. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chu Yuqin had long heard from Lu Chen that he was destined to be immortal, so Chu Yuqin would not be surprised that Lu Chen would use immortal magic, but knowing is knowing, seeing it with your own eyes is another matter. At this time, Zhou Xiaoxiao, who was lying on the bed, let out a sound. After a while, Zhou Xiaoxiao stared at Lu Chen closely with her beautiful eyes and said, "My lord, what did you just do? Why did I turn up? I feel so comfortable and my body doesn't hurt at all." Hearing Zhou Xiaoxiao's words, Mu Zixuan suddenly thought of when she gave birth to a child. Her body did not emit green light at that time, but when she came into contact with Lu Chen's body, her whole body felt very comfortable. Within a few days, her body returned to what it was before giving birth. At first, she thought it was because she had a better constitution, but now it seems that Lu Chen may have used a special method to treat her. Lu Chen did not answer Zhou Xiaoxiao's question immediately, but waited until the color returned to her face before he said, "This is my unique treatment method that can help you recover as soon as possible." As soon as Lu Chen finished speaking, Chu Yuqin immediately turned to the midwife and maids of the palace in the room and said, "No one is allowed to tell anyone what happened today." Seeing that Chu Yuqin's face was so serious and her tone was so strong, the midwives and maids in the room quickly lowered their heads and said, "Yes, Mrs. Chu." They had never seen such a treatment method before. Obviously, this was not a treatment method possessed by ordinary humans, but a legendary magical technique. The midwives and maids in the room were extremely excited when they thought that their prince knew magic. In the past, they had only heard about the existence of immortals, but now they actually saw a person who knew the magic of immortality with their own eyes, and it was the prince they served. How could they not be excited? This is to serve an immortal, not an immortal fate that ordinary people have. At this time, Zhou Xiaoxiao sat up from the bed, and Lu Chen quickly supported her. She was now back to where she was before giving birth, and her health was no longer serious. Then she hugged the child next to her and looked at it carefully. "My lord, I only gave you one daughter." There was a look of regret on Zhou Xiaoxiao's face. She could see Lu Chen's love for Lu Changfeng. She always thought that Lu Chen liked boys, so she felt a little pity after giving birth to a daughter. This is the case in this era. Mother is more valuable than her son. Only by giving birth to a son can a woman's status be improved. Lu Chen looked at the daughter in Zhou Xiaoxiao's arms and said with a smile, "Xiaoxiao, to me, sons and daughters are almost the same. In my palace, whatever a son has, a daughter will also have. Although a daughter may not get as much as a son, I will never treat any of my children badly, so you don't have to worry." After hearing what Lu Chen said, Zhou Xiaoxiao felt relieved. Mu Zixuan reminded from the side, "Your Majesty, the child doesn't have a name yet. Please give the child a name." Lu Chen thought for a moment and then said, "Let's call her Lu Huanhuan. I hope she can grow up happily." Zhou Xiaoxiao muttered, "Huanhuan. Huanhuan, Prince, this is a good name." At this moment, a maid's voice suddenly came from outside. "Your Majesty. Commander Chen is looking for you. He said there is something very important. I hope you will go to the study quickly. Zhou Xiaoxiao just gave birth to a baby. Lu Chen was supposed to accompany her at this time, and the maids in the palace were also more sensible. If it wasn't something particularly important, she wouldn't be able to disturb her at this time. Chu Yuqin saw that Lu Chen's face became a little serious, so she immediately said, "Chener, since Commander Chen is looking for you, there must be something important. You can go first. We can just stay with Xiao Xiao here." Lu Chen said, "Okay, I'll leave first." As soon as he finished speaking, Lu Chen turned around and left Zhou Xiaoxiao's room and headed to his study. When Lu Chen came to the study, Qin Yushan was already waiting for him. After Lu Chen opened the door, he asked, "Commander Qin, what happened?" Qin Yushan quickly took out the bamboo tube in his hand, then took out the sheepskin rolled into a cylinder, opened it, handed it to Lu Chen and said, "Your Majesty, the barbarians in the north are moving." Upon hearing this, Lu Chen's brows instantly furrowed into the character Chuan. After Lu Chen came to Beijing, he was not afraid at all of the assassinations by the young people in the capital, nor was he afraid of the aristocratic families in Beijing. What he is most worried about and pays most attention to is always the barbarians north of Beijing. The news of the barbarian movement made Lu Chen nervous instantly. If the barbarian army moves south, Beijing will be the first to bear the brunt, and the cities in Beijing will inevitably be bloodbathed by the barbarians. The reason why Beijing has not been able to develop and has always been so poor is because barbarians go south to plunder from time to time. After Lu Chen picked up the parchment scroll in Qin Yushan's hand and looked at it, he fell silent and didn't speak for a long time. The information on the parchment only said that the barbarians had begun to gather and that they had not yet formed a large army. It would take at least 2 months for them to complete their gathering. After a while, Qin Yushan saw that Lu Chen did not speak, so he took the initiative to say, "Your Majesty, our people found out that this time the barbarians went south not just to plunder food, but to completely occupy Beijing. The barbarian royal court plans to establish a kingdom and make Yanqing their capital." Hearing this, Lu Chen couldn't hold it back and sneered and said, "They occupied Beijing and came to Beijing to establish a country. Wherever I go, I have a good idea." Lu Chen was the vassal king of Beijing. If he lost his fiefdom, he would still be considered a vassal king. Qin Yushan reminded at this time, "Your Majesty, judging from the assembly order of the barbarians from the royal court this time, the barbarians will attack Beijing with at least 300,000 cavalry. There are currently only 30,000 soldiers in Beijing, and most of them are in Yanqing. They cannot stop the attack of the barbarian army. I'm afraid we have to make plans early." After hearing Qin Yushan's reminder, Lu Chen fell into silence again. There is a difference between a large-scale war and a small-scale assassination. If an assassin comes to the palace to assassinate someone, a few grenades can blow them up and make them cry for their parents. If the barbarians really came with 300,000 cavalry, it would definitely be a dark place. Moreover, the reason why the Xia Dynasty has always been unable to deal with the barbarians is because the barbarians are basically cavalry. When the cavalry attacks, they advance very fast. Before the Xia Dynasty's army has set up a defense line, others come over, and when the Xia army's support arrived and they were about to counterattack, the barbarian cavalry retreated like a wave, and they basically couldn't catch up. For so many years, the Xia Dynasty's method of dealing with the barbarians has always been defensive. However, the purpose of the barbarians this time is to occupy Beijing, so they should not retreat after seeing the arrival of Xia's army like before. But in this case, even if Beijing is defended, the lives of all living beings will be ruined and mourning will be everywhere. If all the people in Beijing were killed by the barbarians, wouldn't he, the prince, become a bear commander? Chapter 63, No Need to be Polite, Mr. Zhou. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Lu Chen looked at the parchment in his hand and said nothing for almost a quarter of an hour. This was the real crisis he encountered since arriving in North County. In fact, if he could not withstand the barbarian attack and simply abandoned his fiefdom and returned to the capital, he would at most be punished and not die. But once he voluntarily abandoned his fiefdom and fled back to the capital alone, his reputation as a prince would really plummet, and it would be difficult to recover. A king who abandons his own people and his own territory will be nailed to the pillar of shame in history. but if he doesn't leave, then he will face a very real problem, 30,000 versus 300,000, how to fight. And it's infantry versus cavalry. There are exactly 13 cities in the 13 counties of Beijing, and 30,000 soldiers cannot defend them at all, and it was difficult for him to know from which direction the barbarians would attack. Seeing that Lu Chen remained silent, Qin Yushan stopped speaking and just stood quietly next to Lu Chen. For a moment, it was eerily quiet in the study, and even the sound of mosquitoes seemed extremely loud. Lu Chen thought of the 122mm howitzer at this time. 122mm howitzers could play some role, and no one in this world has ever seen such a terrifying weapon, so it can catch the opponent by surprise, but the key to the problem is that the cavalry is dispersed and highly mobile. What if the opponent sees that they have such a terrifying weapon in their hands and just turns around and runs away? Thinking of this, Lu Chen was stunned for a moment. Wait, wasn't he worried about how to defend Hebei County? Why now he is worried that the barbarians will escape? Thinking of this, Lu Chen couldn't help but reveal an evil smile. If all these 300,000 cavalrymen could be gathered in one place, maybe it would not be impossible to fight 300,000 against 300,000. But, would the barbarians be so obedient? If the barbarians send out so many cavalry at once, they will inevitably divide their troops. It is impossible to attack a city with 300,000 cavalry, unless there is a place or something that can attract them to attack with 300,000 cavalry. After Lu Chen thought for a while, he felt that he was not made for fighting, and professional matters still needed to be left to professionals. He was thinking here alone, and even after thinking for a long time, he might not come up with a good solution. He had never been on the battlefield in his previous life, and he had never fought in this life. So there was no use in dreaming here. No matter how much you think about it, in the end it's just talk on paper. Thinking of this, Lu Chen said to Qin Yushan, tomorrow morning, summon the important generals and county guards from North County to come to the palace. Qin Yushan instantly understood what Lu Chen meant. Lu Chen obviously planned to call them together to discuss countermeasures before making a decision. At the same time, by Hualu, in the fragrant room, a graceful figure loomed. Wang Qingxi was taking a bath in the tub. At this time, a maid said from behind the curtain, "Master, the people from the Blood Moon Tower have arrived." Hearing this, Wang Qingxi immediately got up from the tub. Water droplets all over her body kept sliding down against her white jade body. Her whole body was like a hibiscus emerging from the water. After Wang Qingxi got dressed, she came to the third-floor pavilion of Baihua building. At this time, a young man in white clothes was standing on the edge of the railing, looking in the direction of the North Palace. This situation reminded Wang Qingxi of a person. The former deputy owner of the Blood Moon Tower seemed to like standing there and looking in the direction of the palace. After Wang Qingxi entered the attic, he immediately said, "Master Zhou, you are finally here. I have wanted to leave this ghost place of Yanqing for a long time." Hearing this, the young man in white looked back at Wang Qingxi with a faint smile on his face. "Thank you for your hard work, Miss Wang." Zhou Hanwen was different from the hall master of the Blood Moon Tower. He was dressed in white and looked like a handsome young man, just like a frail scholar, but he is not weak at all. He is a true master. Zhou Hanwen asked at this time, "Miss Wang, I heard that the Northern Palace is preparing to take a concubine. I wonder if this is the case." Wang Qingxi replied, "It is true, but why did Master Zhou ask this question? Does Master Zhou intend to send a female assassin to sneak into the palace and assassinate King Bei?" Having said this, Wang Qingxi showed a bitter smile on his face, pretending to be unwilling to recall something and said, "Master Zhou, if you want to do this, I suggest you forget it. Chu Yuqin is already half Grandmaster Bu, and she followed King Bei every day, and even when King Bei had sex with his wives and concubines, she was outside listening. If we just sent a female assassin to get close to King Bei, Chu Yuqin might have discovered the clues before she even got to King Bei. Our Baihualu assassin was killed by Chu Yuqin alone. I suspect she will become a Grandmaster in a few years." Hearing Wang Qingxi's words, Zhou Hanwen frowned slightly. "I did have the idea of sending a female assassin to get close to the Northern King just now, but after hearing what Miss Wang said, it seems that if you want to assassinate the Northern King, you can only lure the Northern King out. It would be best if he could be separated from the mysterious master. At this point, Zhou Hanwen's brows widened again, and then he stared at Wang Qingxi with a smile on his face. "Miss Wang, I heard that King Bei is very lustful. I wonder if he is interested in you." Wang Qingxi replied, "King Bei has indeed been thinking about my body. For the mission, I have been hanging on to him. If Master Zhou needs me for anything, just ask." Zhou Hanwen said, "Then please ask Miss Wang to lure King Bei to Baihua Tower. This way we will be more likely to succeed in the assassination." Wang Qingxi said, "Of course there is no problem with this, but even if I let him come to Baihua Tower alone, I am afraid that the mysterious master and Chu Yuqin around him will still follow him." Zhou Hanwen said with a smile, "If we can lure those two people out of the palace, it will be a good thing for our Blood Moon Tower. I'm going to prepare a surprise for King Bei." Zhou Hanwen is not the kind of person who is stubborn. If he wants to take revenge on King Bei, he doesn't necessarily have to kill King Bei immediately. If the two mysterious masters and Chu Yuqin could be lured out of the palace, Zhou could enter the palace and kill them. He wanted King Bei to see the corpses of his wives and concubines with his own eyes. Moreover, Zhou came to Beijun this time for another important purpose, which was to obtain soap perfume and the method of making soap. As long as they can lure out the mysterious master, they will have enough time to steal the method of making soap and perfume from Bai Wangfu. In Zhou Hanwen's opinion at this time, Beiwang Mansion only had one Grandmaster who was slightly more powerful. Without that Grandmaster, Beiwang Mansion would be a lamb to be slaughtered. At this time, Wang Qingxi raised the corners of his mouth slightly, forming a weak arc on his lips, and said with a slight smile, "In that case, I will let King Bei come to Baihua Tower tonight." After hearing what Wang Qingxi said, Zhou Hanwen said politely, "Then I'll trouble Miss Wang." Wang Qingxi said, "Master Zhou, there's no need to be polite. This is what I should do." Chapter 64. That's an army of 300,000 people. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After night fell, Lu Chen stayed in his study and repeatedly checked the map of Daxia, especially the terrain of Beijun. Although the map was hand-drawn by soldiers, it still has a certain reference value. Lu Chen was thinking at this time that if he wanted to maximize the effectiveness of the howitzer, the best way would be to lure all the barbarians' 300,000 cavalry into a narrow terrain. At that time, another pocket tie will be done, so that the barbarian cavalry will have no way to escape. Of course, his current plan is just on paper, and the specific operation is definitely not an ordinary difficulty. For example, whether the barbarians will be fooled and whether they will follow their thinking all depends on the barbarian generals. At this moment, there was a knock on the door of the study. "Chener, can I come in?" Hearing Chu Yuqin's voice, Lu Chen said absently, "Well, come in." Chu Yuqin then entered the study room and saw that Lu Chen's eyes had been staring at the map on the desk. In addition, Lu Chen had been shutting himself in the study room after meeting Qin Yushan. Chu Yuqin knew that there must be some major crisis coming. Chu Yuqin asked worriedly, "Chener, what happened?" Chu Yuqin was not an outsider, and Lu Chen had no intention of hiding it from her, so he replied, "The barbarian royal court issued a summons order to summon an army of 300,000 people to go south, occupy Beijun, and then establish a country in Beijun, and use Yanqing as their capital." Hearing this, Chu Yuqin's brain froze. In this world, large-scale wars cannot be controlled by a single master or a few strong men. If the 300,000 cavalrymen really go south, the people in Beijun will definitely not be able to defend it. It's no wonder that Lu Chen didn't want to eat or drink tonight and stayed in the study. Chu Yuqin asked at this time, "Chener, is the news accurate?" Lu Chen nodded. "This is the information that Genie Wei sent back from the grassland." Chu Yuqin fell into silence. When the Blood Moon Tower sent people to assassinate Lu Chen, she couldn't even protect him, let alone protect the palace among 300,000 cavalry. Chu Yuqin also understood that this kind of thing was obviously beyond her control. Lu Chen said at this time, "Aunt Chu, I plan to transfer Zishuan and the others to Anping City, and then I will lead an army of 30,000 to fight the barbarian cavalry in Yanqing." Anping City is also a city in Beijun, but Anping City is further south. If Beijun is really lost, Mu Zishuan and the others can leave Beijun and return to the capital as soon as possible. Hearing Lu Chen's words, Chu Yuqin was stunned for a moment, and then said quickly, "Chener, you absolutely must not That's 300,000 cavalry. How can the 30,000 soldiers in Beijun be a match for the barbarian cavalry? Although Chu Yuqin had never been on the battlefield, she also knew that the barbarians' 300,000 cavalry were actually 300,000 cavalry. Normally, when the Xia Dynasty or other dynasties use troops abroad, they always claim to have hundreds of thousands of troops, or millions of troops. But these so-called armies of hundreds of thousands and millions of people have a lot of water content. The logistics of the army account for most of it, and there may not even be half of the soldiers who can actually be used in combat, but the barbarian soldiers are different. Each of their cavalry can fight. If they claim to have 300,000 cavalry, it means that they have an actual 300,000 fighting soldiers. Chu Yuqin really couldn't imagine that if 300,000 barbarian cavalry troops came to the city, how could Lu Chen defend the 30,000 soldiers from Beijun? Seeing Chu Yuqin so flustered, Lu Chen showed a confident smile. Aunt Chu, have you forgotten that I have a destiny? Chu Yuqin did not feel relieved because of Lu Chen's words. She continued, Chener, I know that you are destined to be immortal, but with your current strength, you cannot withstand an army of 300,000 people. And there must be many masters in the barbarian army, even great masters. Lu Chen said calmly, what I mean is that I have a more terrifying weapon in my hands. Hearing what Lu Chen said, Chu Yuqin suddenly remembered the mysterious weapons Lu Chen used before. If Lu Chen had a large number of weapons of that type, or if the palace could produce similar weapons, then it would not be impossible to fight 300,000 against 300,000. Chu Yuqin asked curiously, Chener, can the weapon you mentioned really withstand the charge of the barbarian cavalry? Lu Chen looked at the map and did not answer Chu Yuqin's question directly, but asked, Aunt Chu, do you know what I am most worried about right now? Chu Yuqin looked down at the map and said nothing, since Lu Chen had already said that he would lead 30,000 soldiers to confront the barbarians' 300,000 cavalry head-on. What Lu Chen was worried about was naturally not the barbarian troops approaching the city. If Lu Chen wasn't even worried about barbarian troops approaching the city, Chu Yuqin really couldn't think of anything else that Lu Chen should worry about. Lu Chen continued at this time, what I'm worried about is that the barbarian cavalry will escape. We can't completely keep the 300,000 barbarian cavalry. Chu Yuqin. Hearing Lu Chen's words, Chu Yuqin suddenly felt that her mind was a little hard to turn around. Not only do you want to resist the 300,000 barbarian cavalry going south, but you also want to completely defeat these 300,000 cavalry, and you also want them all to stay. If this was said to anyone, I'm afraid people would think that King Bei was frightened after hearing the news that the barbarians were going south. That's an army of 300,000 people. And they are cavalry. Let's not say whether they can defeat these 300,000 cavalry. Trying to keep 300,000 cavalry is tantamount to wishful thinking. At this time, Chu Yuqin sighed and said, Chener, I'm just a woman, and I don't know much about war. I just hope that you can be safe. At this time, Lu Chen looked up at Chu Yuqin, whose eyebrows were slightly furrowed and her face was full of anxiety. He smiled and said, Aunt Chu, don't worry, if we really lose to the barbarians, I will also find a way to escape. It is not too difficult for me to escape from the barbarian siege. Chu Yuqin said, then when do you plan to send Zishuan and the others to Anping City? Lu Chen said, the sooner the better, I need to prepare in advance. At this time, Lu Chen looked into Chu Yuqin's eyes and continued, Aunt Chu, I hope you can leave with Zishuan and the others and help me protect them. Chu Yuqin did not refuse Lu Chen's request this time because she knew that she would not be able to play a big role in such a large-scale war. Okay, if Beijun is really lost, I will take Zishuan and the others back to the capital. You can just rest assured and fight the barbarians in Yancheng. Seeing that Chu Yuqin agreed, Lu Chen lost another worry. At this time, the maid's voice sounded at the door. Your Majesty, there is an urgent message from the Imperial Guard. Lu Chen said, come in. Then the maid entered the study and handed the letter in her hand to Lu Chen. Lu Chen opened it, glanced at it, and said to himself, it seems that there is still a little trouble that needs to be solved before fighting against the barbarian army heading south. Chapter 65 Blood Moon Tower Attacks. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After hearing what Lu Chen said, Chu Yuqin on the side immediately asked, "Chener, what happened again?" Lu Chen replied, "The owner of the Blood Moon Tower came to Yanqing in person. He wanted Qingxi to lead me to Baihua Tower. If I was accompanied by the so-called mysterious master, the people from the Blood Moon Tower would come directly to the palace. Bloodbath the palace. If I didn't have that Grandmaster by my side, they planned to kill me first in Baihua Tower, and then use me to lure out the mysterious master." Hearing Lu Chen's words, Chu Yuqin frowned slightly, and then she snorted coldly and said, "Shuiyue Tower is so bold, assassinating a vassal king again and again." Having said this, Chu Yuqin looked at Lu Chen. "Chener, what are you going to do?" Lu Chen said calmly, "It's time to solve the problem of Blood Moon Tower. It's okay to kill me. If you want to touch my wife and children, then they should all go down to see the King of Hell." Lu Chen's words were calm, but his tone was full of murderous intent. He was really angry this time. His system determined that his women were his weaknesses. If they wanted to touch his weaknesses, then the other party would not be able to live. Lu Chen continued, "Getting rid of the Blood Moon Tower is just the beginning. The people behind the scenes are still there. Without the Blood Moon Tower, other assassin organizations are coming. It's time to give the people behind the scenes a warning." Hearing Lu Chen's words, Chu Yuqin instantly understood what Lu Chen meant. Lu Chen was planning to attack a certain prince in the capital. Naturally, Chu Yuqin would not stop Lu Chen. After all, the prince sent assassins to kill Lu Chen again and again, which no one could bear. However, Chu Yuqin still reminded, "Chener, now that the barbarians are moving south, if you want to attack someone in the capital, you must have your men do it cleanly, otherwise if your father finds out, he will be very there may not be troops sent to support you." Lu Chen said, "Don't worry, Aunt Chu, I still know the pros and cons." Then Lu Chen said to the maid outside the study, "Xiao Xue, go and call Commander Qin." The maid's voice came from outside the door, "Yes, Your Majesty." After the maid left, Lu Chen said to Chu Yuqin with a smile on his face, "Aunt Chu, I will trouble you to go to Baihua Tower later." Chu Yuqin instantly understood what Lu Chen wanted to do. She wanted the people in the Blood Moon Tower to think that she and the Grandmaster followed Lu Chen to the Baihua Tower, and then lured the assassins from the Blood Moon Tower to come to the palace to bloodbath the palace. Chu Yuqin said, "Okay, Chener, you have to be more careful." Although she knew that Lu Chen's strength was no longer what it used to be, Chu Yuqin would still subconsciously care about Lu Chen. After all, it was Chener who she had watched grow up. Now that there are Jinui, the various actions of the palace are much faster. Not long after Qin Yushan came to the palace, he asked the Jinui to prepare an ambush in the palace. As long as the assassins from Blood Moon Tower dare to come at that time, they will never come back. Although there is a Grandmaster in the Blood Moon Tower, Qin Yushan is also a Grandmaster, and Qin Yushan is not an ordinary Grandmaster. There is still no big problem in dealing with a small Grandmaster in the Blood Moon Tower. Audience. In order to pretend to be more respectable, Lu Chen specially sent someone to Mu's mansion and told Mu Changtian that he had something very important and asked him to come to the palace. Mu Changtian was very happy when he heard that King Bei had assigned him a task so soon. He had things to do when he first arrived in Beijing, which meant that King Bei valued him very much. What he was afraid of now was that King Bei would always leave him alone. A general who is not reused by the king has no value. It's time for him to show his worth. Then Mu Changtian dressed up carefully according to Lu Chen's request. He looked like a knight-errant, wearing a bamboo hat and covering his face so that people couldn't see clearly who he was. When Mu Changtian came to the palace full of enthusiasm, thinking that Lu Chen was going to give him an important task, Lu Chen said to Mu Changtian, "Father-in-law, please go to Baihua Tower and pretend to be the palace. The mysterious master of the palace, help me divert the attention of the Blood Moon Tower assassins and make them think that the mysterious master of the palace has left the palace, so as to attract them to attack the palace." Hearing this, Mu Changtian was stunned for a moment, diverting the assassin's attention. This is something important. Lu Chen also asked his servants to tell him that it was a very important matter, but this is the result. Although he felt a little disappointed, Mu Changtian still accepted the order and said, "Yes, Your Majesty." Having said this, Mu Changtian asked curiously, "Your Majesty, how many assassins did Blood Moon Tower send to assassinate you this time? Don't you need my help? Mu Changtian still wanted to fight for it. Although he knew that Lu Chen had many strong men, he was still a master after all, and a master could play a greater role. Lu Chen smiled faintly, and then said, there are only a few assassins who can solve it quickly. I don't need your help from my father-in-law yet. Seeing that Lu Chen had said this, Mu Changtian couldn't bear to insist on it, so he had to follow Lu Chen's request and follow a fake prince to Baihua Tower. On the way to Baihua Tower, Mu Changtian asked Chu Yuqin curiously, Mrs. Chu, how many masters did the assassins of Blood Moon Tower send here this time? Chu Yuqin replied, I don't know this either, but I heard that their host came in person. Hearing Chu Yuqin's answer, Mu Changtian was stunned for a moment. The owners of the Blood Moon Tower were already here. How could Bei Wang still show such an understatement? Mu Changtian soon calmed down his heart. With so many strong men under King Chu's hands, he really didn't need to be afraid of the Blood Moon Tower. The owner of the Blood Moon Tower is just a Grandmaster at best, and there must be more than one Grandmaster under Bei Wang. The Shuyue Tower went to Bei Wang's mansion purely to seek death. Mu Changtian thought to himself, forget it, after coming to Beijing, there are many opportunities to show his sincerity, so there is no need to rush for this moment. Shouldn't the king of Bei have said that he would let him train cavalry? That would be regarded as reusing him. After a while, the palace's carriage arrived at the entrance of Baihua Tower. Seeing a man wearing a bamboo hat and Chu Yuqin standing beside the palace carriage, Zhou Hanwen's lips slightly raised in the attic. Miss Wang, it seems that as you said, these two people will always protect King Bei. Next, I'll ask Miss Wang to find a way to hold off Prince Bei. I'm going to Prince Bei's mansion. Wang Qingxi smiled and said, Master Zhou, go slowly, I will try my best to delay the time and wait for your return. As soon as Wang Qingxi finished speaking, Zhou Hanwen led the people from Blood Moon Tower to the North Prince's mansion. At this moment, it was getting late and the sun had already set. The fiery red sunset shone on people's bodies, dyeing their skin bronze. Zhou Hanwen and his party quickly passed through the streets and headed straight to the North Prince's mansion. At this time, the North Palace was extremely quiet, and there seemed to be no one in the palace. When Zhou Hanwen and others entered the Northern Palace, they found that there was not even a single servant in the palace. Zhou Hanwen frowned, and he instantly felt something was wrong. The next moment, countless arrows were shot at them, and Zhou Hanwen realized that they had been fooled. However, Zhou Hanwen was still very confident. He was a master and there was no way these arrows could hurt him. As a master, he could feel that the man wearing a bamboo hat in Baihua Tower was also a master. The mysterious master and Chu Yuqin are not in the North Palace. Even if there are some guards in the North Palace, how can they resist his bloodbath in the North Palace? Zhou Hanwen then said to the Blood Moon Tower assassin behind him, kill me, no one from the North Palace will be spared. Chapter 66 Another Grandmaster. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Following Zhou Hanwen's order, the assassins from Blood Moon Tower rushed directly towards the direction of the Jiniwei soldiers, facing the rain of arrows. Seeing this scene, Lu Chen was already used to it. When he dealt with the deputy owner of the Blood Moon Tower last time, the 9th grade masters of the Blood Moon Tower also rushed forward despite the rain of arrows. It has to be said that before there was gunpowder in this world, the status of warriors was still unshakable. It's a pity that Lu Chen is here. Lu Chen then distributed the grenades to the Jinhui soldiers. The assassin who killed Zuela last time only used a dozen grenades, and he still had a lot of grenades. Lu Chen then said to the Jiniwei soldiers, throw the grenades the way this king does. As soon as he finished speaking, Lu Chen pulled out the safety catch, held the grenade in his hand for a moment, and then threw it directly in the direction of Zhou Hanwen. Lu Chen's system could recognize people, and he could tell at a glance that the man in white was the owner of the Blood Moon building. In addition, he was now a 9th-level warrior and very strong. He easily threw the grenade over Zhou Hanwen. Zhou Hanwen's perception was very strong, and his eyes immediately locked on the round thing in the sky. Although he didn't know what it was, Zhou Hanwen suddenly felt a strong sense of crisis in his heart. The round thing looked like a stone, but Zhou Hanwen didn't think that the people in the palace had no arrows and could only throw stones. This was obviously a special weapon. Zhou Hanwen quickly jumped back a few steps. although Zhou Hanwen jumped away, the warriors around him did not react. The grenade exploded directly in the air. With a loud bang, countless fragments flew out. Several warriors under the grenade were directly penetrated by several fragments in the head. Facing the traceable arrows, these warriors may be able to resist them for a while, but when faced with the extremely fast grenade fragments flying everywhere, they have almost no choice but to dodge. Seeing this scene in front of him, Zhou Hanwen's face instantly darkened. Although he guessed that this was a weapon unique to the royal palace, he had no idea that this weapon was so powerful. The 9th-level warriors had no chance to survive in front of this weapon. In just the blink of an eye, the Blood Moon Tower lost several 9th-level warriors. Originally, Zhou Hanwen just thought that there was a mysterious master in the palace. King Bei was able to survive several assassinations in the Blood Moon Tower because of that mysterious master. Now it seems that they were wrong. Even if Bei Wangfu doesn't have that mysterious master, with this mysterious weapon alone, even if Bei Wang Palace doesn't even have a warrior, it's still not easy for the assassins of Blood Moon Tower to kill Bei Wang. Everyone said that King Bei was a waste, but now it seems that everyone in the world has been deceived. Possessing such a terrifying weapon without leaking any information, King Bei must be planning something famous, but none of this matters anymore. What matters is how he kills King Bei in this situation. I don't know if it was because Zhou Hanwen, the owner of the Blood Moon Tower, personally led the team. Although the first grenade took away several 9th-level warriors, the assassins of the Blood Moon Tower still remained calm. This actually surprised Lu Chen. However, Lu Chen did not intend to give them time to react. The next moment, he continued to throw grenades, and the other Jinui soldiers holding grenades also threw the grenades according to the method Lu Chen just used. Then a dozen grenades exploded above the heads of the Blood Moon Tower assassins. The poor Bloody Moon Tower assassins didn't even see King Bei himself, so they were killed and injured in large numbers, with only a few people left. Zhou Hanwen panicked at this time. He didn't expect that in such a short period of time, the people he brought would be basically gone. These assassins are all the elites of Blood Moon Tower. According to the past, these assassins would have no problem assassinating the emperors of some small countries, let alone a prince. But today, even the northern king didn't see them, and most of their people were dead. The weapons in Bai Wangfu are too terrifying. No. He must leave Beiwang Mansion quickly. There has never been any news about the weapons in the Beiwang Mansion. It must be because all outsiders who saw such weapons were killed. Otherwise, it is impossible for Daxia to have no news about such weapons. This is a powerful weapon that can subvert the world of martial arts. If people knew that Bei Wangfu possessed such weapons, I am afraid that the entire martial arts world would tremble, and the status of martial artists would plummet. Zhou Hanwen thought in his heart that although he might not be able to kill the North King, as long as he escaped and spread the news that the North King's mansion possessed such a powerful weapon, it wouldn't be long before the North King would be defeated by all the martial arts masters in the world. Expert assassination. He didn't believe that King Bei could still protect himself at that time. Thinking of this, Zhou Hanwen turned around and prepared to run away. However, the moment he turned around, he discovered that at the gate of the palace, a man wearing red clothes and carrying a long knife was leaning against the door frame. The moment he saw Qin Yushan, Zhou Hanwen's pupils shrank slightly. Another Grandmaster. And this is no ordinary master. He had seen this man before. This is the killer known as the Blood Demon Sword. When this man dominated the world, there was no Blood Moon Tower, and he had only seen this man from afar. Zhou Hanwen never expected that he would see this man again in this place. Zhou Hanwen only had one thought left in his heart, and that was to escape. Putting aside the mysterious weapons of the palace, the Blood Demon Mad Saber alone was not something he could deal with. Others were already masters more than 10 years ago. Even if Qin Yushan is still a master now, his strength is infinitely close to that of a great master. It was not something that a warrior like him, who had just entered the master realm, could resist. Zhou Hanwen couldn't figure out why the Blood Demon Mad Saber appeared in the North Prince's mansion. He actually became King Bei's subordinate. How did King Bei do it? Qin Yushan smiled and said at this time, Zhou Hanwen, the fatal scholar, the owner of the Blood Moon Tower, I have long wanted to see your iron fan, and it seems that I finally got my wish today. After hearing Qin Yushan's words, Zhou Hanwen came back to his senses. Now is not the time to think about that. Now that he knows the terror of the North King's mansion, the North King is even more unlikely to let him go. If he wants to escape, he must first deal with Qin Yushan in front of him. Zhou Hanwen then took out a fan, opened it with a bang, and said, "Then let me ask Senior for advice." As he spoke, Zhou Hanwen waved his fan, and a dozen sharp needles flew towards Qin Yushan. After Qin Yushan easily avoided these sharp needles, he stepped out like a cannonball and rushed towards Zhou Hanwen in an instant. The best way to deal with the hidden long-range weapon in Zhou Hanwen's hand is to close the distance. However, Zhou Hanwen's iron fan was obviously not only capable of firing hidden weapons. He immediately tightened his wrist and closed the fan. The next moment, a sword blade appeared at the front of the fan. Zhou Hanwen's iron fan turned into a sword again at this time. Then, the two began to fight at close range. Sparks caused by the collision of the swords and fans continued to fly. The body-protecting aura on the two men was completely released, and the surrounding floor tiles were lifted up. Chapter 67 The Era of Warriors is coming to an end. You are listening at novelfull.audio. When Qin Yushan and Zhou Hanwen were fighting, several 9th-level warriors from Jinui were not idle. With the help of grenades, they eliminated all the assassins in Shuyue Tower in 3 strokes. Now only Zhou Hanwen is left as the owner of Blood Moon Building. Lu Chen jumped down from the roof, then walked to the flower bed of the martial arts training ground and sat on it, watching the battle between Zhou Hanwen and Qin Yushan. At this time, a member of the Genie Guard Qin who came to Lu Chen and asked, "Your Majesty, why don't we take action?" Lu Chen immediately raised his hand and waved. And then said, "No, I want to see what the battle between the masters is like." Lu Chen has never seen the Grandmaster fight, so he doesn't know the specific strength of the Grandmaster. Seeing the battle between the Grandmasters with his own eyes, he can also better evaluate the Grandmaster's combat effectiveness, and it is also easier for him to judge whether modern weapons can easily defeat a Grandmaster. By then, the Barbarian cavalry will definitely have warriors at the master level, and there will probably be more than one. Knowing the master's combat effectiveness in advance, he can be well prepared. At this time, Qin Yushan was holding the knife in his hand and pressing down on Zhou Hanwen. Zhou Hanwen was forced to dodge and had no ability to fight back. Zhou Hanwen felt that his arms were constantly trembling. The strength of the Blood Demon Crazy Sword that was so powerful back then was not just a boast. As long as he made a slight mistake, he would probably be dead. At this time, Zhou Hanwen spotted Lu Chen in the distance. He had never met Lu Chen, but judging from the respectful attitude of the surrounding genie guards towards Lu Chen, he had basically guessed Lu Chen's identity. Zhou Hanwen finally came to his senses at this moment. He already understood that the person who entered Baihua Tower earlier was not King Bei at all. The handsome young man not far away was the real King Bei. They, Blood Moon Tower, were fooled from the beginning. When he thought of this, Zhou Hanwen was filled with anger, but he had no choice at the moment. He himself was suppressed and beaten by Qin Yushan, and even escaping was a problem. How could he take the life of King Bei in this state? Is it possible that we are really going to fall into the hands of this little brat today? When he thought of this, Zhou Hanwen felt a little unwilling. Since he took over as the owner of Blood Moon Tower, assassination missions rarely failed, especially the assassination missions he personally participated in, which were all 100% successful. Unexpectedly, he was tricked by a nominal good-for-nothing prince today. The more Zhou Hanwen thought about it, the angrier he became, and then the power in his body began to work crazily. The next moment, red blood appeared faintly in Zhou Hanwen's body. Seeing this scene, Qin Yushan frowned. Zhou Hanwen waved his fan at this time, and countless flying needles flew out from the fan. Qin Yushan quickly took a few steps back, and then blocked the flying needles with his knife. However, Zhou Hanwen didn't even think about escaping at this time. The moment he flew out all the flying needles, his figure went straight towards Lu Chen not far away. Seeing this scene, Qin Yushan's expression changed drastically. "No! Your Majesty, get out of the way!" Zhou Hanwen said in a roaring voice, "Boy, if you want to kill me, then you should be buried with me." Hearing this, Lu Chen smiled slightly and did not hide away. there's never been a better time to monitor your firearms. A Grandmaster who uses the blood-burning method and uses the aura to protect the body. He wanted to see if Barrett's bullet could penetrate his body. Thinking of this, Lu Chen raised his hand casually. The long barret appeared in Lu Chen's hand, and the black muzzle was pointed at Zhou Hanwen's chest. Zhou Hanwen was stunned when he saw the stick-like weapon suddenly appearing in Lu Chen's hand. The weapon in Lu Chen's hand appeared out of thin air. Anyone who saw it would be surprised. Even Qin Yushan and the other guards were stunned by this scene. Is this a magic trick? Where did such a long weapon come from? Although he was stunned for a moment by Lu Chen's movements, Zhou Hanwen's body did not stop. Seeing that Zhou Hanwen was about to come to Lu Chen, he said sarcastically, "I just want to stop me with a stick. I am so looked down upon." As he spoke, Zhou Hanwen was ready to take Lu Chen's life. However, he did not discover what he imagined. The next moment, a loud noise was heard. Gang. Lu Chen shrugged his shoulders slightly. Even though he was now a 9th-level warrior, the recoil was still a bit strong when carrying Barrett for sniping, but fortunately, there is no problem with the accuracy, and the distance is so close, a blind man can hit it with his eyes closed. Moreover, the speed of the bullet is very fast. Even if Zhou Hanwen is a master, there is no way to avoid it. However, there is still a difference between a Grandmaster and ordinary warriors. The moment the bullet came out of the chamber, Zhou Hanwen's eyes clearly saw a black dot flying from the top of the strange stick. Zhou Hanwen thought it was a hidden weapon and planned to use a fan to block it. However, the moment Zhou Hanwen waved his fan, Barrett's bullet instantly penetrated his iron fan, and then penetrated his protective aura, directly passing through his chest. The moment the bullet penetrated Zhou Hanwen's body, he lost his sense of pain, but he could feel that something had penetrated his body. Zhou Hanwen lowered his head slightly in disbelief. After discovering the blood hole on his chest, his pupils shrank slightly, showing a look of horror and disbelief. He couldn't figure it out. He was a Grandmaster, and he still had body-protecting aura. What kind of hidden weapon could penetrate his body? And he didn't even block it with his own iron fan. Soon, Zhou Hanwen's consciousness gradually blurred, and his body fell down. Seeing the bloody hole in Zhou Hanwen's chest, Qin Yushan in the distance took a breath of cold air. He couldn't help but sigh. It seems that the era of warriors is coming to an end. Qin Yushan became a genie for some reasons, but he himself did not know that Lu Chen had such a powerful weapon. He only knew that Lu Chen was the master they must follow. After seeing the damage caused by the Bartley in Lu Chen's hand, he gradually understood why Lu Chen became the master of Genie, because this young man will definitely stand at the top of the world, overlooking everything. At the same time, after Mu Changtian learned from Wang Qingxi that the assassins from Blood Moon Tower had gone to the palace, he immediately returned to the palace with Chu Yuqin. On the way, Mu Changtian saw that Chu Yuqin was not worried at all. He asked curiously, "Mrs. Chu, are you not worried at all about what will happen to King Bei?" Chu Yuqin asked, "Does General Mu want to see something happen to the prince?" Mu Changtian said quickly, "That's not true, I'm just worried that the assassins from the Blood Moon Tower will hurt the prince." Mu Changkai came to Beijun. If something happened to King Bei, their family would have a hard time, so he was the one who was most worried about something happening to Lu Chen. Seeing Chu Yuqin's calmness, Mu Changtian also felt a little curious. Is the Beiwang mansion really so powerful? They didn't panic at all when faced with a Grandmaster and the entire Blood Moon Tower. Soon, Mu Changtian and Chu Yuqin returned to the palace. Mu Changtian quickly entered the palace, intending to help the palace resist the assassins from the Blood Moon Tower. However, as soon as he entered the palace, he found the corpses of assassins wearing black clothes on the ground. This. Chapter 68. Aunt Chu, it's hard for a doctor to heal himself. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Seeing that Mu Changtian and Chu Yuqin were back, Lu Chen said with a smile, "Father-in-law, Aunt Chu, you have worked hard." Chu Yuqin didn't say anything. She quickly walked to Lu Chen's side and asked with concern, "Chener, are you okay? Are you injured?" Although she didn't seem worried at all about the situation in the palace on her way back, she was still very worried about Lu Chen's situation in her heart. Lu Chen was about to reply that it was okay, but suddenly thought of something, so he immediately covered his chest, and then said with a strong look on his face, Aunt Chu, I'm okay, I just suffered a minor injury. Seeing Lu Chen's appearance, Chu Yuqin suddenly became extremely nervous. Chen, are you feeling uncomfortable in any way now? Lu Chen said, I don't feel any discomfort at all. I just feel like something is accumulating in my dantian, which makes me a little breathless. Hearing this, Mu Changtian, who was not far away, couldn't help but become worried. Just as he was about to say something, he heard Lu Chen say, Commander Qin, please help dispose of the corpse in the palace. If I don't feel well, just let's go back and rest first. Having said this, Lu Chen took Chu Yuqin's beautiful hand and left in front of everyone. As he walked, he said, Aunt Chu, please help me to adjust. I feel that the air in my body is getting less and less. It's clear. Seeing this scene, Mu Changtian was stunned. After Lu Chen and Chu Yuqin left, Mu Changtian asked Qin Yushan curiously, Commander Qin, is King Bei okay? Mu Changtian didn't know what was going on. He really thought that Lu Chen was seriously injured and needed Chu Yuqin to nurse him back. Hearing Mu Changtian's question, Qin Yushan smiled and said, the king of the north is naturally busy. This, Mu Changtian asked doubtfully, why can you still laugh when Bei Wang is in trouble? Qin Yushan asked, General Mu, can't you see that King Bei is in trouble in front of Mrs. Chu? Mu Changtian was not a fool. After hearing Qin Yushan's reminder, Mu Changtian understood instantly, being injured is just an excuse, so, does King Bei have other thoughts about Chu Yuqin? Mu Changtian quickly stopped himself from thinking about it. This was not something he should be concerned about. As a man, it is normal to have some thoughts about beautiful women. King Bei is also a man, so it is not surprising. Mu Changtian then focused on the corpses of the assassins on the ground. He found that except for the corpses of the assassins, there were no other corpses on the ground. There is not a single body of a palace soldier. In other words, when the assassins from the Blood Moon Tower come to the palace cannot kill all the assassins from the Blood Moon Tower with one soldier. How did you do that? Mu Changtian then looked at Qin Yushan and continued to ask, Commander Qin, why didn't I see the bodies of the royal soldiers? Qin Yushan replied, General Mu, not a single soldier in the palace died. Where did the corpses come from? Hearing Qin Yushan's answer, Mu Changtian was shocked. The palace actually wiped out the assassins of the Blood Moon Tower without losing a single soldier. Is this the true strength of Bai Wangfu? At this time, Qin Yushan said, General Mu, please go back and have a good rest today. The prince will summon us tomorrow morning if he has something to do, and you will also participate. Upon hearing this, Mu Changtian said, okay, I'll go back first. Then Mu Changtian turned around and left the palace. At the same time, after Lu Chen and Chu Yuqin came to the study, Lu Chen pretended to be very uncomfortable. Seeing Lu Chen like this, Chu Yuqin said with worry on her face, Chen, don't scare me, how are you? Lu Chen said, oh, I accidentally got slapped by an assassin just now. Commander Qin checked me and said it was fine, but I don't know why, but I just feel uncomfortable here in my chest. Hearing Lu Chen's words, Chu Yuqin no longer cared about whether men and women should be kissed or not. She said directly, take off your clothes quickly, let me take a look. Without saying a word, Lu Chen undressed and took off his clothes. Chu Yuqin immediately raised her slender hand, and then gently stroked Lu Chen's chest. She used her internal power to input into Lu Chen's body and help Lu Chen check, but found nothing wrong. Chu Yuqin said to herself, strange, I didn't find anything unusual. At this point, Chu Yuqin raised her head, looked into Lu Chen's eyes with her beautiful eyes and said, Chen, are you the same as last time? Something went wrong while practicing martial arts, which caused the power in your body to not function properly. Smooth. Lu Chen said, that's possible. It's probably because the thief slapped me just now and exposed the hidden wounds I accumulated from practicing martial arts in recent days. That's why I feel that the airflow in my dantian is not smooth. Chu Yuqin suddenly thought of something at this time, and then said, I remember, don't you know how to heal the body with magic? Why don't you try to use magic to heal yourself? Lu Chen sighed, oh, Aunt Chu, it's hard for a doctor to heal himself. My magic can only be used to treat others, not myself. Chu Yuqin said worriedly. What should we do? Lu Chen asked with a smile on his face. Aunt Chu, have you forgotten the way you helped me heal last time? This. Chu Yuqin hesitated for a moment. Of course, she had not forgotten how she helped Lu Chen with his treatment last time, but she always felt that the treatment method was not very serious. And she almost made a mistake last time. If she did it again this time, what if she couldn't control herself later? Thinking of what happened last time, Chu Yuqin's dignified and elegant beauty appeared with a touch of flying clouds. Chu Yuqin then said, Chener, is that method really effective for your body? Lu Chen replied, didn't we already try it last time? It must be useful. Chu Yuqin hesitated for a moment, then said, okay, let's try again, but don't put your legs too close to me. At this point, Chu Yuqin's face became even redder, and she completely looked like a shy beautiful woman. It's fine if the upper body is too close, but it's inappropriate if the lower body is too close. She also knows that Lu Chen has some thoughts about her, and she is worried that Lu Chen will not be able to control himself. Seeing that Chu Yuqin agreed, Lu Chen said, yeah, I understand. Then Lu Chen raised his hands and hugged Chu Yuqin's waist directly. Chu Yuqin's buttocks were slightly sunken as she leaned on the desk. At this time, Lu Chen said in Chu Yuqin's ear, Aunt Chu, this time the barbarians are attacking. I don't know if I will be able to see you again in the future. Hearing Lu Chen's words, Chu Yuqin said quickly, Chener, don't say such unlucky words. I believe you will be able to defeat the barbarians. After all, you are a person with immortal fate and are blessed by immortals. Lu Chen said in a depressed tone, don't be afraid of 10,000, just be afraid of what happens. Having said this, Lu Chen used both arms to hold Nephrite Wenxiang tightly in his arms, and their bodies were also pressed tightly together. Chu Yuqin twisted her hips slightly, trying to avoid Lu Chen's enthusiasm, but found that she couldn't move at all, so she had to let Lu Chen hold her. At this time, Lu Chen's unique manly scent flowed into Chu Yuqin's nose, making Chu Yuqin feel hot all over. Chu Yuqin felt nervous. Sure enough, it was like this again, and it was like this last time. Chapter 69 How can you treat your aunt like this? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chu Yuqin wanted to use kung fu to calm down the strangeness in her body and calm down the restlessness in her heart, but just like before, she now had no kung fu in her body and was just like an ordinary person. Chu Yuqin couldn't help but feel a little nervous. She was always like this every time she came into contact with Lu Chen. If things continued like this, she might make a mistake that day. Fortunately, Lu Chen didn't move his hands or feet at this time. He hugged Chu Yuqin tightly, rested his head on her shoulder, and said in her ear, Aunt Chu, if something happens to me one day, you must if you want to help me take care of Zishuan and the others, they will ask you. Hearing Lu Chen's tone as if he was explaining the funeral arrangements, Chu Yuqin said quickly, Chener, if you say such things again, I will be angry. In Chu Yuqin's opinion, Lu Chen's words were very unlucky. What if Lu Chen's words came true and something happened? Seeing that Chu Yuqin's tone was a little more serious, Lu Chen smiled and said, okay, I won't say anything anymore. Feeling Chu Yuqin's soft body, Lu Chen had other thoughts on his mind, and his body's energy and blood surged, making him a little restless. A unique fragrance disturbed Lu Chen's nose, stimulating him constantly, as if it was teasing him. Chu Yuqin also noticed something strange at this time. She twisted slightly, trying to keep her butt away from Lu Chen. However, Lu Chen didn't do what she wanted. His big hand moved down slightly and fixed Chu Yuqin's buttocks, making it impossible for her to move. Chu Yuqin was heartbroken. She didn't expect Lu Chen to be so bold. Chu Yuqin quickly pushed Lu Chen away with her upper body, then looked at Lu Chen with eyes full of spring water and asked, Chener, are you feeling better? Let Auntie go when you feel better. There was a hint of prayer in Chu Yuqin's tone. If it continued like this, something might really happen. Lu Chen said, I still feel uncomfortable. Please stay a little longer. It may be that there are too many hidden injuries and it will take some time to repair. Wang Qingxi blushed and whispered, can you be more honest with your hands and stop touching them everywhere? If you do this again, I will really get angry. Lu Chen said innocently, touching randomly. No, isn't my hand always left like this? Chu Yuqin pursed her lips but didn't say much. She really couldn't speak. As time passed by, Chu Yuqin became increasingly unable to suppress her inner restlessness. Her whole body softened, and she was able to stand only with Lu Chen's support. At this time, Lu Chen looked at Chu Yuqin's beautiful eyes and said, "Aunt Chu, I feel that this conditioning method is not very effective anymore. We need to go further." Hearing this, Chu Yuqin, who was already in a daze, suddenly woke up. "Want to go further? Their bodies are already stuck together. If it goes further, wouldn't it be?" Chu Yuqin didn't dare to think about it anymore. She said quickly, "No, I am your aunt, we can't do that kind of thing." Seeing Chu Yuqin's excited look, Lu Chen smiled and said, "Aunt Chu, you misunderstood me, I didn't mean it that way." Hearing Lu Chen's words, Chu Yuqin breathed a sigh of relief, and then she asked in a gentle tone, "Chener, what you said is one step further." Before Chu Yuqin could say anything, Lu Chen leaned her head over, and then took the initiative to kiss her lips. Chu Yuqin's mind suddenly went blank. She didn't expect that Lu Chen would do such a thing, and Lu Chen's movements were so sudden that she didn't even have time to dodge. Lu Chen glanced at Chu Yuqin's favorability score at this time. In the past, Chu Yuqin's favorability score had always been 98, but it was always 2 points short of 100. But when he took the initiative to kiss like this, Chu Yuqin's favorability level not only did not drop, but instead rose by 1 point, reaching 99. Lu Chen felt a little incredible. By doing such a thing, he was already prepared for Chu Yuqin's favorability to drop. In fact, this is easy to understand. Chu Yuqin originally felt that way about him in her heart. Coupled with the continuous influence of Long Feng tea, her heart had long belonged to him. It's just that some secular morals in this world trapped her like shackles, so she never dared to go further with Lu Chen. But today Lu Chen took the initiative to break the stiff situation between the two, which directly broke the shackles in Chu Yuqin's heart, so her favorability towards Lu Chen also began to rise. But after Chu Yuqin came to her senses, she quickly raised her hand and kept pushing Lu Chen's chest, trying to push him away. "Aha!" Chu Yuqin pushed Lu Chen's chest with her jade hands and made a voice to protest, but Lu Chen ignored it. This is the best opportunity for desensitization. If nothing further happens between him and Chu Yuqin, then his relationship with Chu Yuqin will remain in such a stalemate from now on. Lu Chen didn't plan to take down Chu Yuqin today, but he had to let Chu Yuqin get familiar with doing intimate things with him. Only in this way, she would be able to accept him more quickly when doing business in the future. Chu Yuqin struggled for a moment and found that there was really no way to push Lu Chen, so she had to give up and passively cooperated with Lu Chen's kiss. After an unknown amount of time, Chu Yuqin felt that Lu Chen's hands were becoming more and more dishonest, and her mind instantly sobered up. If she continued like this, she might become Lu Chen's woman. No. This cannot go on. He is Sister Yu's child. I can't make mistakes. She didn't know where the strength came from, but she suddenly pushed, and this time she actually pushed Lu Chen away. After pushing Lu Chen away, Chu Yuqin was ashamed and angry and said with tears in her eyes, "Chener, you are going too far. How could you treat aunt like this? I'm your aunt." Seeing Chu Yuqin's pitiful and touching look, Lu Chen felt a little guilty, and he immediately said, "Aunt Chu, I don't know what happened just now, but suddenly I couldn't control myself. This may be the person who practiced with me. It's related to immortal magic. Aunt Chu, I was wrong, please don't be angry." Hearing Lu Chen's words, Chu Yuqin calmed down a little. She wiped her tears with her sleeves, and then asked, "How is your health?" Lu Chen said, "I have recovered a bit, much better than before." Hearing Lu Chen's answer, Chu Yuqin said, "Auntie can help you take care of your body, but you are not allowed to mess with me in the future." Lu Chen said with a frustrated look, "I understand." Seeing Lu Chen's appearance, Chu Yuqin knew that what she said was serious, and she felt very guilty. Then she took the initiative to move forward and leaned on Lu Chen's broad chest. Seeing this scene, Lu Chen was stunned. He did not expect that Chu Yuqin would actually come up to her. Chu Yuqin said at this time, "You are not allowed to move, I will just hold you." Upon hearing this, Lu Chen said, "Okay." After a while, Chu Yuqin noticed something strange about Lu Chen again. Chu Yuqin blushed, and then cursed fiercely, "Chener, you little scoundrel, why are you always so dishonest?